You are now tuned in to the Arthur Moats Show.
I'm your host, Arthur Moats, and today's show is recorded out of Total Sports Enterprises, Pittsburgh's exclusive supplier in signed memorabilia. And it's been a lot of stuff that's transpired with the Steelers this offseason, and I really wanted to talk about it, and I figured what better person to bring on than a good friend of mine, former teammate here in Pittsburgh, 12-year NFL veteran, Mr. Will Allen. What's up, baby?
My dog. How you doing, man?
I'm well, man. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks
As always, you're looking sharp. You know, that's the standard, though, with you.
It is. Standard is a standard.
No
man.
question, man.
Good.
So, like you said, man, me and you played here in Pittsburgh. You had 6 years here. I had 4 years here. Just talk about from an alumni perspective. How are you viewing the team right now, man?
Wow. I mean, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
After last year of disappointing season, just call it what it is. When we play, we may have had maybe one disappointing season when we were together, but I think it is a rebuild. It is a kind of a refocus, if you will. Yeah. And I think the guys are hungry, especially a lot of the veteran guys. After speaking with them this all season, especially on the defensive side of the ball, they got something to prove. It's a legacy here. They got to continue on the legacy, continue on like the rich tradition, and be dominant. I think you got a lot of high paid players, a lot of first round picks,
a ton of pedigree.
So to me, it's the expectations are high. Mm-hmm. They're always high, but I think it's greater this year. They just got to gel together, man, and be more of a collaborative team, and take out the individual stuff. I think if they can do that, they're playing in February.
No, I agree with you on that, man. Especially when we just talk about how things transpired this offseason, right? You obviously have the situation with Antonio and how that played out. Then obviously Le'Veon leaves and takes his contract to go with the Jets. And it was just a lot of negative associated with the organization for a while. I do think now, though, those guys, like you said, have that chip on their shoulder. They have that I want to prove something feel. And I think not only on the field, but organizationally as well. I think when you talk about Coach Tomlin, when you think about Kevin Colbert, I think all of those guys have that thing where they want to get this thing right. And they do have the talent, I feel like.
I mean, talent and talent valuation and bringing in the talent has never been an issue.
Right.
Cultivating the talent has never been an issue. I just really believe that it's time. I think it was time in 16. It was time in 15.
Yeah.
Now we're in 19.
Right.
So it's, I just think that, you got the pieces, you got the players, you got the quarterback, you got the defense that you wanted. You drafted the guys you had. So, it's up to the players to play, not the coaches. Players got to play.
Absolutely,
that's
man.
what it comes down to.
It does, man. It does. And that's something
to.
that you did very well, man, for 12 seasons.
I did all right.
Nah, man. Come on.
I did all right.
Now, obviously, like I said, I hinted about the departure of Antonio. Obviously, Le'Veon left. Well, he didn't play this past season, but he's officially off the roster now. So when you think about the talent that's left the team through free agency, through trade, do you think the Steelers are better as an on-field team now than they were last year?
It's that's a tough question to ask because Antonio Brown is the best receiver in the world.
Absolutely, and he's been that way for the past couple of years, man.
He's been that way for a while, and Le'Veon Bell is top 2. Right. If not the best running back,
depending on how you want to argue, right?
Based on offensive line structure and team, whatever else everybody want to say, but. We've had an intimate look and view, POV of Le'Veon and what he can do, how he can produce, how he moves.
Absolutely.
And you just don't see that, every day. So losing those two guys hurt. But again, it's a refocus year. I mean, you got Juju that's going to step up. You got James Conner that's going to step up.
And he did. Even when we think about him last year, man, making his first Pro Bowl. I mean, one of those guys that really came on and showed that he could be a player in this league at a high level.
Right. But it does hurt to lose that talent. Yeah. You can't deny that. Right.
And the productivity that's associated with those two players.
You can't deny it. And, it's like losing Julio Jones.
Yeah.
And you can't deny it.
Right. I don't care who your next guy is stepping up. He's going to have some type of fall. You know, he's going to be some type of drop off just because of.
Right.
I mean, we talk about AB, 100 receptions, over 1,000 yards, led the receivers, all receivers in passing touchdowns.
Right.
I mean, just think about that. Like, that's a ton of productivity.
Ton of productivity. You know, and he doesn't miss games.
Right.
You know, he's always on the field. You know, but now it's just another man's opportunity to step up. And it may not be to that level, or it could be, but you need complementary receivers and complementary players to kind of, you know, make up for that one player.
Right.
You know, and I think the Steelers got a good grip and handle on that. You know, like I talked about cultivation of talent,
Right.
they do a good job of that. So,
And especially at the receiver position too.
right.
Historically, they've been able to either draft guys or through free agency bring in guys that come in, step up in a big way, and produce.
Yeah. So, I mean, they got a few guys that come in like Moncrief. You know, he can go the distance. I'm excited to see what he can do. You know, and you know all the rest of the guys. You know, it's going to be a challenge, and those guys gotta step up.
Right.
Like players gotta play.
Absolutely. And I think back a little bit. Now, granted, it wasn't on this level because of Antonio's productivity, but just think about when Martavis got suspended.
Yeah.
That was the time where it was like, okay, you know AB is your one, but who's going to be the other guy?
Right.
And then from there, okay, somebody steps up. I remember initially with Sammy Coates, he stepped up for a while early in the season before he had the injuries and stuff.
Yep.
But every year, somebody else has to step up. When Mike Wallace left, it was the same conversation. Or when Emmanuel Sanders left, same conversation. Who's going to be the next guy? Who's going to step up to that level? And I think that's the one thing when we talk about, like you said, cultivating that talent, making sure that they produce and continue to grow and develop. This is the place where they do that at.
Yeah, you know, and that comes down to coaching.
Yeah.
And that comes letting those players play, and you know, and seeing who's gonna rise to the top. So it'd be interesting to see. I think that's one of the challenges of this year. But it'd be exciting to see. I mean, somebody's gonna emerge.
Absolutely.
You know, so
Somebody has to.
somebody has to.
Now, who's your dark horse favorite? Are you going with Moncrief, or are you going James Washington, the third round draft pick from a year ago?
You know, I just think it's going to be a very unique. I think it's going to be wide receiver by committee. You know,
okay.
I think they got really 3 to 4, you know, good receivers. Two to you know, it can be 2s or 3s in the league that's going to contribute in a timely fashion. You know, if Moncrief's not having a good week or a good month, somebody else will step up. And if Washington's not having a good week or a good month, someone else will step up. And I think it'll be complimentary that way. Obviously, Juju's going to get most of the balls, but what's going to happen when he gets double teamed?
Right.
They got to figure out ways of getting the ball. They got to figure out ways to move him around and allow his playmaking ability to step up. But
because he's going to see a ton of attention this year.
Ton of attention.
Way different than what he's accustomed to.
Right.
Because, I mean, he was receiving attention, but it was the leftover attention from what AB, you know, whatever he didn't have over there, that's what they were allocating to him.
Yeah.
So.
And what he proved is that the number 3 or number 2 cornerback or safety could not match up with him.
Absolutely.
So how can they position him to do that? How can they put him on number 2s and 3s again, and let these other guys play against number 1s if somebody emerges? So, and I think that's what you saw when Martavis was emerging. You had to put a number 1 type of corner on him, and that's when AB could do his thing and open up tight ends. You know, I think, you know, Vance McDonald may be the dark horse. You know, Xavier Grimble may step up. You know, those guys. You know, you think about 2 tight end sets. You know, both those guys are extremely athletic and talented.
Can run.
Have
proven that.
And have proven that. It's going to come down to an unselfish mentality on offense. You know, and I think that's what's going to get them to where they need to be and back to the Super Bowl.
Okay, I like that. And now you talked a little bit earlier in terms of the coaching aspect. So this offseason, Coach Tomlin received a 1-year contract extension versus the traditional 2-year contract extensions that the Steelers have historically done with their coaches. So when you think about that, do you think that him not making the playoffs this past season, everything that's transpired this offseason, do you think that he's on the hot seat this year coming up?
I don't know if he's on a hot seat. I just think they want to add some pressure from a management perspective, you know, to sort of performance, you know, will prove itself. And, you know, I from the outside looking in, you know, that's how I would view it.
Okay.
He's a great coach. I mean, who's better? Belichick. No one else.
Right.
I mean, no one else has the record. No one else.
Statistically, the numbers are there.
I mean, you got winning seasons 10 years in a row.
Has the hardware.
You just
has a ring.
A few rings.
Yeah.
You know, who's better? Who's going to come in? You could gamble on younger talent,
Mm-hmm.
someone to come in, but who knows if that will work?
Right.
And knowing the mentality of how the Steelers operate, they like consistency and
True.
performance.
I've never fired a head coach either.
I never fired a head coach,
Yeah.
so I just think that this may be their strategy moving forward until a Super Bowl is won. On Mike Tomlin's behalf, because he's due. Just to be quite honest, the team is due. He's due, and you got to you got to start racking them in, and you can't keep letting New England win them all, or at least going.
Yeah.
So that's my perception, and I think it's a challenge. And you got to challenge everyone in the locker room, and no matter if it's coaches, general managers, or event staff, you got to challenge everybody, And,
well, they say competition breeds, it's gonna make you rise to the top, right?
I think it does, but it's healthy competition,
right?
Healthy competition, but the Steelers are very collaborative in their operations.
Yeah.
So I think it was something that was agreed upon, but you gotta press it a little bit,
right.
To make sure that all the checks and balances are there.
Absolutely,
so I don't think it's a big issue. What's the difference between a 2 year and a 1 year? If he does well, he'll get another 1 year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it works out. You know what I mean? It works out. So he just it's time.
Yeah. See, now for me, when I looked at it, it felt crazy saying that he was on the hot seat when I'm like, you look at what he's been able to accomplish as a head coach, never had a losing season. His 2 worst years were 8-8. Yeah. That's nobody has done that.
Yeah.
Like you said, won Super Bowls, been to multiple Super Bowls, been a part of some of the best teams that you will see in the league as well.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think about all those things, I'm like, how could you even fathom the thought of him being fired or not being the guy going forward? But then the flip side is, if this isn't other organizations where that's okay. This isn't other organizations where, hey, if you win a couple of division championships, you're good. As long as you got a winning record, you're above 500, you're good. You think about the situation with Marvin Lewis in Cincinnati. Oh man, how many years did first round knockouts, right? But he was good.
Yeah.
In Pittsburgh, that's not the case. In Pittsburgh, you're gauged on how many Super Bowls you win or how many appearances you're getting there as well.
Absolutely.
So when I thought about those things, I don't want to say it's a true hot seat, but I do think that he feels that pressure. He understands the sense of urgency that he has to have going forward with these 1 year deals now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're 100% correct.
Yeah.
But that, again, management is, challenging the position,
Yeah.
and questioning their own decision making process.
Absolutely.
So I think that's healthy.
Yeah.
And and I don't think Coach Tom is afraid of that challenge. I think he's up for it.
Absolutely.
And he had a 1 year deal in Minnesota. He was only a defensive coordinator for 1 year, and then he became the head coach.
Yeah.
So I think he's used to that. He can lean on those experiences,
Right.
which was 13 years ago. People don't realize that he was
crazy, man.
He was a D coordinator 13 years ago
Yeah.
for 1 year and was wildly successful. Had a top 5 defense, number 1 rush defense, number 3 pass defense.
Yeah.
At Minnesota, and they were doing well. So, I think he's up for that challenge.
I like that.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to talk about the defense a little bit, right? Because that's what we do, right? We're defensive guys. We like to hit. We like to, pride ourselves on the intellectual side of the game.
It's just different on defense.
It's a different mindset.
Just different.
We're not glamour. We don't do all that pretty stuff. No. We're ballers
It's
over
grimy
here.
over there.
Right. As you sit here with your nice collar shirt on, it's grimy over here. So when we look at the Steelers and the talent they acquired this offseason, they brought in Steven Nelson from Kansas City. They bring in Mark Barron as well, was with the Rams last year, and they draft Devin Bush at 10th overall, the highest pick they've had since Rod Woodson. Mm-hmm. So with all the talent they've acquired, how do you think the defense is going to do this season?
Well, it's interesting because, it takes, most rookies don't excel, in the first year. It takes them a year or two, that sophomore leap is what they call it.
Yeah.
So I think he'll play well. I think he'll have some splash. I mean, you don't go jump and trade up for a guy at 10 if you don't think so. He's a hell of a talent. Mm-hmm. He can move. He runs 4.4.
Yeah. Absolutely.
At the size and weight and
hits
speed.
with bad intentions too.
The boy rolls his hips
violent.
He's violent. It's unbelievable. But he's a guy that they're gonna need, and you got veteran leadership in Vince Williams and everybody else that's in a linebacker core. But I think he'll be fine. You know, you're gonna have those growing pains,
Right.
but as long as he just be patient with himself and keep getting better every day. I mean, we seen him with Shazier. Like
Absolutely.
he couldn't even call the defense.
Man,
People don't realize,
right.
but
He used to struggle with that,
struggle
man.
with
Yeah.
it. But he had to train, and it was it was trial by fire, and he got it right, and ended up making Pro Bowls and all
Absolutely.
pros. So I imagine the same type of challenge and expectation is going to be there. So we'll see. But as far as a cornerback position, it's we've never really had that guy at corner, right? And I think that you talk about cultivation of talent of like Ike Taylor, Will Gay, Brian McFadden, even Deshae, and all these guys that played in the past, like they weren't like the man. They weren't like just. They weren't Pat Peterson.
Right. They didn't look at them, like you said, as Jalen Ramsey, those type of like top flight, bona fide #1 corners.
But they won games. They played well. They played together.
Yeah.
They won Super Bowls.
Absolutely.
So when you think about that, hopefully, the secondary can play that way and continue on that legacy. But the new additions are great. I mean, all those guys are talented. They wouldn't have them here. They're paying them good money.
Absolutely.
They're paying real good money.
Absolutely.
So they got to contribute at a high level. And I'm sure, like you said, Mike Tomlin's going to put pressure on them. And so I think they're good additions. I mean, they just got to drink the Kool-Aid, man, and dive into the pool and understand what it means to wear the black and gold.
Right.
And
we've seen even with I guess 2 years ago now when the Steelers brought in Joe Hayden.
Yeah.
He was a guy who had a ton of success, but at the time was dealing with some issues in Cleveland. Was released, and then from there brought him in, and he pretty much turned his career around here in Pittsburgh, man. As far as coming back to that top flight style corner, a guy who can be a quote unquote lockdown corner on one side.
Yeah.
So that's why when they brought in Steven Nelson, I'm like, man, you pairing him up with Joe, I think that they could have a ton of success out there, and I think Joe coming through that experience a couple years prior help Steven Nelson as far as buying into the culture, understanding what it's like to be a Steeler, putting on that uniform, and understanding what's at stake. It's different when you're playing in Kansas City where, granted, last year they had a ton of success, but prior to that, they weren't competing on this scale year in and year out. And I think just having Joe being able to communicate that with him is going to help him out a ton in terms of getting his mind prepared for what he's going to face this season.
Man, that's a great point. I didn't think of it that way. But Joe coming in and like you said, like he's bought in, he's been able to understand that transition, and he's back to being top flight.
Right.
And he is one of those elite cornerbacks, elite movement that's definitely been able to help the Steelers. I mean, I hope that Nelson really comes in and shows his talent, shows his skill. I mean, Artie's still talented.
Oh, very talented.
Very talented.
Yeah.
And
they just picked up his roster bonus too. I want to say for I think it was $800,000 that he got on the 4th or 5th day of the new training camp league or whatever.
Yep.
So I was like, that's good for him, man. It shows some confidence in him from the organization at least.
Yeah.
Because like you said, we've seen him, we know what he's capable of doing.
Right.
But for him, I think it's less about his ability and more about in between right here.
Yeah.
Making sure he doesn't get in his own way.
And that's the game, especially at this level. Everybody's talented. It's just a matter of can you get out your own way, and can you build the self-confidence to execute.
And especially on the back end, you can attest to that as well. It's different. I mean, at my position, at linebacker, you might have had a couple mess ups, but I know I got you back there. I have Troy back there. I got somebody back there could cover for me.
Right.
On that back end,
ain't nobody covering.
It's
all it's all green grass.
They know exactly when you made a mistake. Like, oh, that was Sam. Or even if you didn't make the mistake, but you're in the vicinity, oh, it had to be that guy.
And most announcers will say it's that guy. And they don't know. They don't know what's going on. But I think the secondary is going to be really competitive.
Yeah.
And and I think Mike Hilton's safe. I think he's safe. Yeah. But it's going to be really good to see what transpires. You always go into camp and always come into the season with 4 corners. You got to come in with 4.
No
so
question.
whatever those 4 are, we know 3 of them. Right. So who's the 4th? Or maybe they go on with 5. I don't know.
Because you still have the 3rd round pick Justin Lane as well out of Michigan State that they drafted. So
you do.
Yeah, and I think Cam Sutton's another guy that's going to be in that mix for the competition.
Yep.
Brian Allen was a former 5th round draft pick who's been around the roster for 3 going on 4 years now. I think it is. So like you said, there's definitely a ton of competition there, which is a good thing though. It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I mean they may go on with six. They may go on with six corners and like four, three safeties.
Yeah,
you just never know.
very true.
That's just how the roster kind of balances itself based on need.
Right.
But we'll see. We'll see. But I think that it's talent rich in the secondary, speed, athleticism, youth. They got to gel together. And be assignment ready and make big plays.
Absolutely.
Don't give up big plays.
Yeah, that's the big one.
Yeah.
Don't give up the
Don't
big
give
play.
up the big play.
Make them. Don't give them up.
No. Yeah.
Now, you've always prided yourself on being more than an athlete. Ever since I've known you, you've always been big in the community, making changes, and just being positive. And you have your Will Allen Foundation, which I've been able to come to a couple of your Christmas events that you do for the children, man. Always a great time. So just talk about the Will Allen Foundation. And first off, what is it about? What are you focusing on with it? And any upcoming events that you got as well, man.
Yeah. So I started the foundation maybe 10 years ago with the premise of helping high school students for life after high school, right? Because I realized that when I was in high school, I really didn't have the resources or understand what it meant to even go to college, and let alone have a profession after college. So for me, I wanted to, pay it forward and bring, being a football player, having access, how can I bring resources, curriculum, and tools so that young people can put tools in their toolbox so they can be more prepared in adulthood.
Okay.
So that's one thing we do. That's called the Quest for a Real Life Success program. And we run those programs at Nazareth Prep, North Hills, and Perry High School here. And then we also used to run them in Tampa and Dayton, Ohio. So at one point we were in 3 cities. And now we shrunk it down to just Western Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So we had to scale back and be more focused.
Okay.
And to your point about the Christmas shopping, we call it the Holiday Giving Program, where we partner with the Boys and Girls Club of Western Pennsylvania, where we target single moms who are struggling during financially during the holiday season. So we pretty much have grown. We started with six kids, and now we do 60. So you think about that's 250 people, or that we service every year now. I like
that, man.
And you see it's at least 200 people, volunteers, everyone.
Absolutely.
When we go shopping, so it's a really big deal. Corporate sponsors, we need you. We thank you for our current sponsors that help us: Axion Labs, Highmark, UPMC. Those have been great sponsors, and even yourself. But yeah, it's great to do those things. And we do a backpack program where we go to the most overlooked and underserved areas in the region where it's high poverty levels, and we just try to just meet a need there with school supplies. So, the whole premise is to provide tools and resources to the community so that the community can take those tools and utilize them and better themselves.
Like that,
and our future is going to be primarily focused on like technology, computer science, artificial intelligence,
like STEAM stuff, then, correct?
STEAM, but more focused on just technology itself. Science and math is included in that, but I'm really hyper focused on what the next generation of middle class will look like, and the next generation of wealth will be, and it's all revolved around technology, artificial intelligence, computer science, and where the world is going. And if lower income, whether it's rural or urban areas, don't participate, are not educated, and don't have access to the resources, are going to be farther left behind, and the wealth gap will continuously to increase. And and it's my responsibility, I feel, and with our partners and donors and sponsors to support and help and bridge that gap. So that's what's next on our curriculum, and how we move forward, through our in-school after-school program.
That, man.
I'm very passionate about that.
I could tell, man.
Man.
And like you said, it's been doing phenomenal. Every time I've been around anything associated with the Will Allen Foundation, or you just in general with these people, man, always top notch, man. So,
well, I couldn't do it without your support, man.
Stop that, man.
I'm just serious.
I'm just glad that I know you. I get the invite, and I'm like,
I'm glad we know each other. So it's good.
Hey, man.
But people, if you want to learn more, go to WillAllenFoundation.com. Go to Will Allen WAF on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It's all the same. Or just look up Will Allen Foundation, and You'll learn more. Please support us. Please donate. You know, everything goes towards the youth and towards the community.
See,
So,
I like that.
Yeah.
Now, before we get out of here, we got to ask the big question, right? Steelers record prediction.
Oh man, you gonna put me on the hot seat?
I gotta put you on the hot seat, man.
You gonna put me on the hot seat?
We talked about Coach Tomlin.
Now when I show up at Heinz Field or Latrobe or the South Side, they're gonna be mad at me if I say something they don't like.
I need record and do they make the playoffs tonight? I need it all.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man, y'all see what he does? Y'all see what he's doing? Y'all see this? This is what you get when you go on the Off the Moats show.
Hey,
put you on the hot seat.
They gave me the mic. I got my own. I got my own camera. When you the boss, you do this.
Oh man. Can I give 2 predictions?
Yeah, go ahead.
11-5 or 10-6.
Okay.
They'll be. I think that'll give them a third or fourth place finish in the playoff in the AFC. That's what I think. That's what I think.
Now it's funny you said that because literally, we got a podcast that we do as well, the Arthur Most Experience with Deke. Make sure you check it out on iTunes. But literally, we're just talking about the predictions for the Steelers, and I was the one who said 10-6 would definitely win the North, 3rd seed overall in the playoffs. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I said I think it's one of those years you can get in at 10-6, be the 3rd seed, and be fine.
Yeah. Wow. That's what I think.
It's that Steeler connection, man. That's what it is.
Steeler defense connection.
Absolutely, man.
That's what it is. That's what I think. I think they'll lose some close games because of the inexperience.
Right.
And
I think
that's just what it is.
I think early on you're gonna have some stuff, but then also that last 5-6 game stretch where they're on the road a lot of those weeks.
I know.
I think that they are gonna have some bumps. I mean, playing on the road in the NFL is tough.
It's tough.
No matter how much you try to psych yourself out about it, location doesn't matter. It's tough.
It's tough.
It's tough. Period.
As long as they don't on the West Coast in Oakland, we good.
Yeah. Oh man. Jeez.
Oh man, we can't win out there for nothing.
Hey man, but it's like that sometimes.
I know. But that's what I think. 11-5, 10-6.
Okay.
But they'll make it 3rd or 4th seed.
I like that.
Be good to go. Have one home game and
boom.
And then it's off to the races from there.
Well, right there.
But we in the playoffs, though. We in the playoffs.
Back in there. That's the real thing. Get in the dance, everything else take care of itself.
We don't go 2 years of missing now. We don't go 2 years.
That's not happening.
That's not happening.
Not happening.
We're going to go 1, but we ain't going 2. We're going to make a 2 to 3 game improvement.
Right.
For sure.
Absolutely, man.
For sure.
Well, hey, man, I definitely appreciate you coming on the show today, man.
I appreciate you, man.
It definitely means a lot to me. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. And until next time, peace.